to bring it back to kind of specifically fatherhood, um, from what I don't know much about it, but I've for some reason in my mind I've got that you work with some form of teaching or coaching
Yeah,
fathers
yeah,
in
yeah,
some capacity. Can you kind of touch on that?
yeah, yeah, definitely. So, because obviously, I'm a dad myself,
Yeah,
and being a father, I experienced at a very young age. I was a single dad, and I identified the lack of support that
right.
was available to men. There was this notion as a black man as well that you're likely to be more irresponsible,
Mhm.
feckless, not around, not present. All these images and narratives was constantly being projected.
Yes.
I was never that guy. I was never a person who was never around or was never wanting to be present with my children. But having had the experience of being a single father and, going through the process of learning about fatherhood, and especially as I've mentioned before,
Mm.
there were some elements that was absent for myself with my own dad. I was
Right.
kind of playing guess who, in
Yeah.
this process.
Yes.
And through doing that, I noticed the lack of support that was out there for men, particularly from public services, social workers,
Right.
teaching staff, NHS, health visitors. I remember when my son was born, he was born on the hottest day of the year, right?
Mm.
In 2003. And I remember going up, being there, just being elated. I was crying. I was just blubbering like a child because I was
Yeah.
remembering my mum and how proud she would have been to have
Oh
seen
wow.
us.
Yeah.
So it took me there, and I
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
quite
Yeah.
emotional.
Mm.
And in that moment, even I only was able to hold my son for maybe the whole of 5 minutes
Mm.
before he was taken, brought up to the ward with her, and I was told to go home because it was an all-women's ward and you couldn't stand on the ward. And I was like, "Rah." And I thought about that experience. I said, wait, man, we just brought life into the world and I'm here celebrating that. And man can't even spend 10 minutes with his son. And I effectively was ousted, not in a
Mm.
negative way, but well, yeah, it did happen. I was ousted, I was asked to leave. So I was
Mm.
like, right. And from that, I noticed that this was the common thread for a lot of men,
Wow.
particularly single dads when the relationship had ended or they separated or divorced
Hmm.
from their partner. There was another barrier, another hurdle to overcome in terms of engaging with public services.
Yeah.
So my work became focused on was supporting single dads to
Hmm.
be educated, to know about their rights, to know about the law, and also to, in effect, become more aware and cognizant, do you understand, of their position and how they're perceived in the world. Because I think we're living in times now where, dare I say, it's very dangerous to be, I think it's dangerous to be a man. There's a very strong feminist narrative that's out
Hmm.
there at the moment.
Mm.
And I think it further compounds this experience of men not sharing. And I think that's why we get into points where we're hearing about issues of domestic violence and abuse and
Okay.
physical
Let's
violence.
touch on that. Touch on that. So when
Yeah,
you're saying, so I'm trying to gauge the correlation, right? So boom.
yeah,
So you've got, so there's this almost like this feminist narrative, yeah,
yeah,
which is, which kind of almost, in a lot of ways, minimizes the ability for a man to have problems or to have issues or to have challenges, because of the, I don't know, the historical treatment of women, right?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
then that dynamic then makes men more likely to internalize their issues and their problems,
Yeah.
and that then he's saying kind of spills out into the
In
relationship
other words,
between the two
yeah,
sexes. Okay.
yeah. I think, and it's not to generalize, but I
Mhm.
feel that that's definitely a facet, that's definitely a
Mhm.
component or a part
Yeah,
of that narrative,
I hear you.
and that adds to it. Definitely, where I feel men do, as men, we are encouraged. I would even go as far as to say we're encouraged to internalize, yeah, certain narratives. We're
Definitely.
not. expected to share or be emotional or express our emotions, and as a result of that, I feel
Mhm.
things become internalized, and that's why you hear mad rates of instances of men committing suicide, which is the biggest killer of men
Mhm.
right now. Men are
Yeah.
killing themselves because they
Mhm.
find it unbearable to continue with their life. And this isn't a reflection of people's ability to earn money. We're hearing, or this isn't a poverty thing. These are
Mhm.
men that often have a certain amount of wealth and
Mhm.
affluence, and they're killing themselves. And then
Mhm.
you later hear about their struggles and their stresses and what they've gone through. Do you know what I mean? So definitely, I feel there is. I think we have that experience of men being encouraged to internalize their feelings and emotions,
Mhm.
coupled with an existing feminist, strong feminist narrative that
Mhm.
whenever there is a relationship breakdown or an issue of gender-based violence, it then becomes heightened, where we now look at men as something to fear. Men are people to fear. You know, they're physically violent, they're dangerous, and I feel within that discourse, it becomes very hard for someone to be able to say, yo, I'm 6'5", I'm 300 pounds, and I'm scared. Do you understand what I'm
Yeah.
scared? I'm
Yeah.
scared out here because I'm
Yeah.
frightened. And that can't, if that makes sense, if you get
Yeah.
what I'm
No,
saying,
I
it
hear you.
becomes very hard. You don't look like you're scared, bro. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
You shouldn't be scared. Look at you, bro.
Mm.
So all
Mhm.
these things get projected, or if you've got a woman who's being very violent towards a man, and you look at the difference where she's 5 foot nothing and he's towering over her, it's hard to believe that this
Yeah.
man is a victim of domestic violence or abuse,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
It, and I definitely hear you. So all of these things are encompassed in this business or this company.
Yeah, so what I do effectively, I coach. So what I'm very interested in is I support men who have often found it difficult, particularly after relationships have ended, to keep in contact with their children. That's a big
Right.
thing. So something I'm working on, I'm working with a number of other organizations as well in this. So
Mhm.
my coaching, that coaching side of me is something that I call Daddy CPR. So
Okay.
this business is effectively around coaching men to support them where there have been issues of conflict, relationship breakdown, and they have no access to the family, or they become estranged from their children.
Okay. So
So,
what does that look like? What does it look like when it?
so
Sorry, the
yeah,
support. I'm talking the support. 'Cause I know that
oh,
there's
the support, yeah.
this when
So
you were
what?
talking about this. Yeah, the daddy
Yeah,
CPR
yeah,
support. What does
yeah,
that look
yeah.
like? They
So what
walking
the
off the
support
street.
is, I provide one-to-one coaching to men. So for example, men who are in those situations, we have coaching sessions, we talk, we reason. If
Mhm.
they're in a situation where they may be going through court
Mhm.
or they're trying to get access, I will provide support to them,
Okay.
suggestions on what they can do in terms of their case. This sometimes could mean physically, sometimes attending court with dads,
Mhm.
taking notes on their behalf, or helping them to build their case to be able to keep in the lives of their children. So that's one aspect of it. The other side of it is I'm very interested in holding kind of like discussions and seminars. So I'll do like webinars, seminars, and training for men
Okay.
around this stuff. So where there are common themes amongst
Mm.
men
Right.
that are affected by these issues, I may bring them together to share their experiences because
Such
kind of
as.
like
Sorry.
so. Oh, what some of what those
Yeah. Some of
experiences
those,
could
like when
be.
you say those common topics or
So
those common threads.
common themes could be like allegations made against them of being violent when this been fabricated. How do you
Right.
come back from that?
Right.
How do you deal with the emotional strain of not being able to see my children? I don't know what to do. What can you do? So a lot of the guys would be like, yo, keep active, be physically healthy, go to the gym,
Mhm.
exercise,
Mhm.
meditate, do
Mhm.
what you need to do. There can be a spiritual element. So I'm very keen to bring people that have had lived experiences
Mhm.
and others that may be starting on that journey to come together to
Uh-huh.
sharpen one another. So it's a part of that whole kind of, peer learning
Yes.
aspect where we have the solutions, and if necessary, referrals maybe need to be made to other public services like social workers, social services,
Mhm.
or GPs or counselling services, you know, to help with that. So that's another element to my
Mm-hmm.
work as well. And then the other end of what I do, which I'm passionate about it all, but this is the area where I feel there needs to be definite change, is to educate public sector services like
Right.
social workers, educationalists, teachers. I
Mm-hmm.
feel that sometimes where you have men who can't see their children and there's
Yeah.
an issue with that, and mum maybe ties this narrative that maybe dad is violent or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
without even assessing, investigating, or checking, they've given her the benefit, right? And they've said, right, okay, we're going to collude with this narrative, which
Right.
further can alienate men. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm making sense,
No,
yeah?
I'm definitely hearing you. Definitely.
And that's what happened. So I feel for me, a key part of my work and a cause I'm passionate about is
Mm-hmm.
to be educating social workers around the issues of parental alienation and that abuse exists, where mothers can use children to manipulate fathers and manipulate certain situations. Do you understand?
I do. I hear you. So that interests me as well. 'Cause I just think, how is right? So, like you kind of said, um, maybe not all the time. Maybe some women are not believed, but I think generally, the accepted way to view that situation is, if somebody makes an accusation, it's almost guilty until proven innocent, right?
Definitely.
So,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
that's the case, how how do you, if someone, if it's one person says one thing, one person says another thing, how do you then, how is that possible to prove that this person is, as you said, fabricating a situation in those instances where that is the case? Because obviously, like you said, you've been raised in an environment and you're fully of the mindset that domestic violence is something that is not okay, no matter what way around it goes.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, but
yeah,
how, if somebody is falsely accused, obviously I know this is something that it's a process, but
yeah.
just kind of almost like a soundbite or a bullet point almost idea of how somebody would go about approaching restoring their character, for example, or proving their innocence, or getting access back to their children.
Yeah. What I
You
would
know?
say,
Yeah.
definitely as a bullet point, I would say the pen is mightier than the sword.
Okay.
And why I say this is because documenting things is powerful, right?
Hmm.
So, um, you know, there there was a saying that my friend, I think it's a Jamaican saying, if it was it say the higher the monkey climb, the more it exposes its body, or
Yeah.
something to
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
effect,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So my brethren always used to say this to me, yeah, and he basically, when you're in a situation where you've been accused of something and you know it's a lie and it's fabricated,
Mm,
as painful as it is, and sometimes in the moment, when you're in the eye of the storm, it's hard
mm,
to be able to think straight. Do you understand?
yeah.
Because you're trying to prove you're innocent, you're trying to prove that this isn't you or
Defense
whatever,
almost.
and defense. But I think what is important is the main thing you do is you document these instances. So if there's a man, if there's anyone watching this, and there's a man out there that's going through this thing, and
Yeah.
someone said something, accused you of being violent towards your children, abusive, your ex-partner, and this is not the case.
Hmm.
My main advice to you would be, one, don't feed into the narrative. And what I mean by that is, don't
Hmm.
be mindful not to show certain behaviors that may make you complicit or make you culpable in that action. So for example, I've seen where men have gotten really irate and agitated, and understandably so. You're
Hmm.
angry, you're
Yeah.
frustrated, you're
Yeah.
accused of something and it's not right. But at the same time, people are watching you. You understand?
Yeah.
People are assessing and watching you. So I think first things first, check your behavior. If you're
Hmm.
angry and you're frustrated, find someone like a brethren, like Chucks, like
Hmm.
me, or someone to just vent with. Ring
Yeah.
your boy and vent and tell you what's happening. Get that out of your system.
Hmm.
Go gym, push them big weights, do
Yeah.
whatever you have to do. Go and do some physical activity to work that
Hmm.
out. But come when it's crunch time to be going to court or going through any process where you're involved in a formal legal process, your game needs to be switched on. You need to be knowing that they're watching you. And in that instance as well, be mindful to document your experiences, because as I said about the monkey, the higher it climbs, lies, they get found out. Yeah. It may take years. Yeah. And I know that ain't encouraging for people, but if you stay,
it's reality.
Your lane is the reality. As you said, bro, you said it's a process. So stick in your process, and as part of your process, document everything. And what I mean by that, if something happens where you're being accused or something happens, you write that down. You note that. If baby mums or exes coming and kicking off at your door, don't be trying to physically fling her out or do anything. Don't get into that. You call police and you get them things documented. And over time, it builds a kind of narrative. It tells a story.
Tells a story, yeah.
And I've heard many cases where there's men who have experienced this, and they built up that case, and in the end, you're hearing, wow, they realised that it was her all along that instigated the agitation or the vexation.
I hear you. No, that's powerful, and I think so. And that's is that the name of the business? Yes, Daddy CPR.
Yeah. So Daddy CPR. Yeah. That's the name of the business and that aspect of what I do in coaching. So it's all about the CPR. It's a play on words, because I feel we do need to reinvigorate and
I think it's a great name.
But also the CPR stands for coaching programs to build resilience. So it's all about coaching to promote resilience within families, and in particular in the men, because I feel that men are viewed wherever you go in a deficit. Yeah, we're often to be the first ones to be assumed that we're not interested in our children. We're not capable of looking after our children. You understand? There's all these things that we're up against already before we've even opened our mouths. These are the things we're battling.
So, if people wanted to get in contact with you or get in contact with the business, they can search that on Google, or is there a link that I can put in the description to the video and that sort of stuff?
They can Google up Daddy CPR. I'm currently actually to go further. There's another organisation that I'm working in partnership. So what it is, they're kind of, to be fair, this organisation is kind of a referral point for me, because I do the individual coaching and I'm more focused on training the professionals. But there's an organisation called FSS, which stands for the Family Separated Support Service. Yeah.
Okay.
And what they do is all the stuff I deal with, but they work with families that are in the thick of it. So they're like a referral point for me. So my suggestion would be, in the first instance, to touch base with them, and they'll do the screening and stuff to check, what's happening with your case and who's appropriate. Because then they would signpost to the relevant organisations or people. Do you get what I'm saying?
I definitely do.
I'm mainly dealing with the training, so I'm not, unless there's a referral through that portal of FSS, and then they come to me. That's how we do it. So they're my kind of referral point.
Okay, so make sure, at some point, make sure you just send over the link for them, and I'll put that in the description for anybody that kind of needs to touch base with them, however they want to do it. Right, so all right, that's powerful. That's powerful. I feel like that's beneficial to a lot of people, people that I know, even people that are in this fatherhood series along with yourself. I've got a friend that kind of touches on similar, maybe I don't even know if similar is the right word, near enough identical to kind of what you're almost combating against. And so I feel like that's a powerful resource that you've shared.
Yeah, and there's also a lot of others. I mean, there's organisations, there's Courtney Brown of Father to Father. There is David Mullings of Father Figure. There's so many different avenues, of male organisations that are responding to these kind of issues, dealing particularly from the legal aspects as well. And Father Figure is one of those that does that, and the family
Mhm.
support service, family separated support service is another one by Mark Shepherd. So
Okay.
these are names that are synonymous with tackling these issues and raising awareness. So
Hmm.
definitely, there's another organization, Dad Zone, with Marvin Bramble and his team.
Okay.
Um, when I speak from a community of
No,
other
I hear
people
that.
that are doing their thing. So I'm not I'm not that guy that will be here to go, yeah, it's me and rare, rare, rare. I'm about, if there's people dealing with this or got issues, there's a community that's out there to
Yeah,
support
there's
and back it up.
resources available.
There's
No,
resources
definitely. I
available,
appreciate that.
definitely.
I
Yeah,
definitely appreciate that. First, I need three book recommendations from you.
wow,
Three
free
books,
book
three book
recommendations.
recommendations. And if I've read any of them, you have to replace them with something else. Just
Cool, free book
so
recommendations.
go deep into the mental Rolodex for something
Yeah,
obscure.
yeah, yeah. So okay, is this something that maybe I'm reading currently or something that I've read?
And there's no parameters.
Okay,
It can be
okay,
any.
okay,
It can be a novel. It can be fiction, non-fiction. It can be
okay,
self-help. It can be spiritual. It can be whatever you want.
okay, cool, 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 cool. Okay, recommendations. I would go for and it's because of I think most people would know about this anyway, but I think do check out by Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
definitely. Have you read that already? You're gonna
I
tell me I
have,
have to
I have,
replace
but
it.
I read it when I was very young, and I haven't employed any of
Yeah,
the stuff inside it.
yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
gonna let you have that one because I definitely need to
yeah.
reread it. So yes, I've got it on
Definitely, yeah.
PDF though. I've got it on PDF,
Get
so I
it on
will
PDF.
reread it. I
Yeah,
will
yeah, yeah,
reread
yeah.
it.
Definitely revisit that.
Yeah.
Another book recommendation as well would be Story Brand, but I think it's Donald Miller. Yeah.
Okay. Haven't heard of
So
that one.
yeah, it's quite good. These are more business related stuff because
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's where my
Mm.
head is at the moment. I'm very much about business and stuff as part of that process. So definitely check out Story Brand. And also, I've forgotten the name of the book by there's two others actually.
Mhm.
British by Afua Hirsch. Yeah,
Okay.
Brit.
I feel like I've heard of that one. I definitely haven't read it.
Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah,
British.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. British.
so,
Where she talks about her identity. It's very much around race and UK identity, British identity.
so that
And
first
check
one was Story Brand, right?
Yeah, Story Brand by Donald Miller. I think that's his name, Donald Miller.
Yeah.
And then Robert
British.
Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah, I got that one.
British by Afua Hirsch.
That's what I heard.
And what's the other one? I was gonna say there was one other by Kahindi Andrews. I've forgotten what it's called.
I love that name,
It's
you know, Kahindi.
Yeah,
I think
Kahindi
that's a
Andrews.
beautiful name.
What is it? Radical. I forgot what it's called. Hold on, bear with me, King.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no
So
problems.
Kahindi Andrews, yeah, he did a
Hmm.
book, and I've got it. I know, but I forgot the titles escaped me. He's talking about radicalism and bringing it back, and what that means for what is his book called? Where is it? But it's really, I mean, Kahindi Andrews, he's deep anyway. I mean, he's a
Yeah,
British man, to understand.
okay,
Still, that's it. Retelling Black radicalism for the 21st century. That's
okay.
it.
Read,
Yeah. So it's
okay,
called Back to Black. Yeah, Back to Black.
okay. Back to black.
Retelling Black radicalism for the 21st century. I can't believe I forgot the name of the book. But that book there, yeah, he talks about institutions and how to change. His belief is, institutions change people. People don't change institutions, and it's quite deep. So this
Hmm.
idea of education and institutions I found quite interesting still, you know. But yeah, so there's a little bit of business in there, stuff there around black
Hmm.
radicalism.
No, yeah, that's good. Perfect, perfect, perfect. I feel like you definitely blessed me with some good recommendations. You passed the two the two of my tests.
I'm glad I
um,
approved. You
yeah,
approved.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Take yourself back to that moment. I remember you described it before when you was that first moment you're holding your child for the first time. If you could go back into that moment and speak to you then, I think you said it was 2003. I think.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
what three bits of advice would you give yourself at that moment?
Get ready. First thing, get ready, boy. Brace yourself.
Mm,
Get ready. But also, one, get ready, brace yourself, and also, you're gonna be okay. I think I would have said you're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay, and mum's proud. I think for me, regardless
mm,
to whatever's going on, mum's proud. You understand? She's
mm,
proud of who you are, what you're doing.
mm.
And yeah, get ready. It's not gonna be easy, but mum's proud. And yeah, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna be
Okay,
okay. That's what I'd say
that's
to myself.
that's a
Don't
good
take
one.
it seriously, bro.
We was talking earlier about stepping into conversations that are difficult. So what I want you to do is have a conversation, speak to your father honestly, and yeah, just have an honest. What would you want to say to your father if there wasn't any apprehension about his discomfort at having the conversation?
What do I want to say to my dad? I think for me, it would be, I would like to honestly know, what has been your experience, Dad? What was childhood like for you? I think for
Hmm.
me, without any apprehension, it would be good to kind of get a sense of how he experienced growing up. Because I know, as you know, Caribbean,
Yeah.
like my dad, he was in the Barbados and whatever, but he was mainly raised by his aunt, my great
Okay.
aunt, yeah. So he was
Okay.
raised by his aunt. And as you know, when obviously them lot sent for my family and whatnot, when the Windrush and all that came over, and we
Hmm.
had our mass migration into the UK.
Right.
Obviously, grandparents and parents went first, and then they
Right.
sent for their children. So then they
Right.
sent for my dad to come over, but he was
Right.
largely brought into it as the lesson. He was raised into his adolescence by his aunt, and I would want to know what was that like,
Hmm.
not being able to see your mum and dad 90 years you're apart from them, getting letters, phone call. I would want to know, how did you experience that?
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Powerful. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. What's your final message?
My final message to everyone, right? If anyone's watching this, and there's a lot happening at the moment in terms
Hmm.
of, we're obviously caught up in a pandemic right now. You've got
Huh?
COVID-19, and allegedly stats is saying that it's affecting our people of the African diaspora particularly, yeah,
Hmm.
are affected by this, African and melanated peoples. And we've obviously got what happened with you know with what's going on in the States right now,
Hmm.
going on with how police are just flying around their weight and everything, killing people, and that's been going on for years. Let's keep it real. It's not
Hmm.
new there. So I feel us as black people, we're very much in the center where we've been projected into the forefront of public consciousness now, all for the wrong reasons.
Interesting.
You
Yeah.
understand? And for me right now, there is a time to go through these experiences. We need to heal. We need
Hmm.
to be present to what's happening right now. Be kind to yourself and be kind to each other. But also, I guess my key message would be that we need to, I think more now than ever, we need to build. And what I mean by building is, I feel culturally, professionally, personally, economically in
Hmm.
particular, we need to build. And I know you and I are a man that we've even spoken recently around the
Yeah.
economic building base of investment and all of
Hmm.
that. And I feel you will be led to believe that by the color of our skin, we ain't
Mm-hmm.
gonna get nowhere. And
Mm-hmm.
I want to refute that and rebuke that right
Come
now,
on, I agree with that.
because real talk will tell you, yeah, I'll tell you now, there are men that I know, right,
Mm-hmm.
that are out there that are earning and are doing well and investing and doing that. So there are means, ways, and avenues. But in the public domain, you'll be led to believe that it should be terrible now. You should have your head down. You're not
Mm-hmm.
going to come out. But there is actually more people becoming more wealthier as a result of this situation right here.
Facts.
But we'll be led, the public consciousness would be that
Mm-hmm.
we can't make it out of this. We're going into a recession and all of that. And I'll say to you, do not believe what you consume. Watch what you consume. Do you
Mm-hmm.
understand? And on that basis, the message is clear. We can build, there is wealth there, and we can get that wealth. Yeah. That wealth is possible, it's accessible. And I would say, but we need to come together to build on that. Yeah, we need to
Okay.
come together to build on that.
That's
All right.
powerful. That's powerful.
Don't
A
believe
message
the
of
hype.
unity,
Yeah,
and a message of financial independence and
definitely. And it's
personal growth.
achievable, my brother. It's yeah,
So on that, let me just say thank you so much. Appreciate it. Everything that I
you,
thought it was gonna be, it was plus more. I appreciate your candidness. I appreciate you sharing as much as you did. Um, and once again, I always look forward when I have episodes like this. I always look forward to editing these episodes because I
yeah,
get
yeah.
to go back in and listen and absorb. I end up absorbing more information just through the editing process. So for that, I'm truly grateful. So
Yeah, love, bro. No, definitely, it's been a
thank you,
pleasure,
man.
man. And bro, keep doing what you're doing, because we need to be continuing to build platforms and build avenues of media and channels so that we can tell our own stories, bro. I'm
Yeah,
tired. I'm gonna be honest. I'm tired
make it
of
plain.
having to rely on other mainstream sources and other sources that are just distorting and mashing up our story. And we need to be doing what you're doing, which is to be
Hmm.
entrepreneurial, to
Hmm.
create spaces to have these conversations. So respect to you
No,
and
I
love to
appreciate
what
it.
you're doing, bro.
Appreciate it.
And I got nothing but love and time for collaborations like this and to help people to build, bro. That's what this is about. So
No, I
you
appreciate
keep
you.
what you're doing, King, man. Keep this
Same to
up,
you,
man.
man. As you say, you don't know. I tell you all the time, anyway, man. Inspirational, brother. Powerful. Um, yeah, very powerful, very experienced, and um, doing big things and destined for more big things. So I appreciate you, Grayson, taking the time out. Um, yeah, we like I say, the term that I've kind of coined to describe what I see the vision is we're the custodian of stories. That's what we do,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
So yeah, thank you for being part of Too Much Information, and
Thank you.
yeah, man, we'll talk. Love every
Yeah,
time, and
definitely.
thank you. Big
Thank
up,
you,
man.
bro. Love, man. Thank you, man.
Big up.